Hey everybody, this is Winn with another edition of Olympic Minds Leadership Beyond Limits. So this is a podcast for those people who are interested in being the leader of leaders, the visionary of visionaries. It's for people who want to go beyond mediocrity into mastery, and for people who are looking for significance, not just success, but significance. They really want to move forward. So this is not about theory. This is grit-tested, heart-proven, and results-driven podcast from people who are leadership experts like Andrew Ting that I'm welcoming today. He's a lawyer, he's an entrepreneur expert, he has taught law, he's taught entrepreneurship, he's led teams in all kinds of different places, but I'm going to let Andrew introduce himself. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sherry, thank you so much for inviting me. It is an honor to be invited. I've always respected your brand of leadership, your writings on leadership. It's just great to be back together again. So who am I? It's kind of complicated question. So I am a lawyer. I've also led legal, compliance, government affairs, privacy, security, finance, accounting teams at various companies, global companies, companies around the world in financial services, technology, education, venture capital. I've done all that. Have helped found different companies, fintech, mortgage firms, venture capital funds, and the like. I also teach at Georgetown Business School and George Washington University Law School on entrepreneurship and how to set up a business and run it. And I also am on the board of advisors for the Association of Corporate Council's Leadership Development Academy in the Washington, D.C. region where I live, where we do an intensive leadership training program 1 day a month for 10 months. So it's a full year. And we are in the, I believe, 8th or 9th year of the program. And we have basically mentored a new generation of lawyers to take home at companies. So leadership is something that I have learned the hard way. And my goal in life is to help other people learn it the easier way by listening to podcasts like yours, Sherry.
Well, I appreciate all that. I mean, you've got such a depth of experience, from all aspects, from different companies and from all aspects of leadership. So tell me, Andrew, what is the thing that if you could narrow it down to something really small, and I know we can't, but if you could look in a mirror and go, look, this person right here I'm looking at, they're going to be a great leader. What would that characteristic be?
Yeah. The tough thing about leadership is that it's both situational and it's consistent, right? The situational leadership comes from all the different things that can just come at you, that attack you when you're, for example, coaching a basketball team like you did, or other things, right? Or leading your company through COVID, which is probably the single biggest challenge that I faced as a new leader. Literally 2 weeks in after I joined, we led our company through COVID. Leading a growing company and a small team versus leading an established company of bureaucracy. So I think a lot of leadership is just looking around and figuring out what are the dynamics of the situation, who is the team, who should be the team, what's there and what's not there, right? Ask the questions about what's missing and what should be there, manage the moment, but also think ahead and think about the big picture, not just what's on the page or what's on the budget or the quarterly forecast or whatever, but what are the trends that you don't see that are really important as well. And the consistency, aside from just kind of being flexible to the situation, adjusting your style like a Swiss Army knife, the consistency is your values and your principles, right? Like I pride myself on being a bit of a chameleon in terms of adjusting to dynamics of a situation. I've worked in military top-down leadership situations with a lot of ex-military. And I've worked right now in an education company where people are super nice and it takes leadership by consensus, right? Really soft. Where I was the bleeding heart of the military company, at the education company, like, wow, like, it's all me. And it's just different strokes for different folks. And I actually am really appreciative that I can broaden my leadership style, bring people along different ways, right? But what's consistent are your values and your principles. Because if you don't stand for something, what do you stand for, right? If you can change your means, but what are your ends?
Right. I agree with that 100%. I think that people, to be authentic, and to gain that, earn that trust, right? It's about they know who you are, and you're not gonna, no matter what happens, that is still the essence of you. But what I'd like to ask you about right now is like COVID. So you said, one of the biggest challenges is COVID. like getting through COVID. So tell me, like, you started a company, you were there for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden COVID hit. So what was it? What was it that enabled you and the company to get through that? Because it was such, I mean, we didn't know it was coming. It was an unknown. We had no idea really what it was, how it affected people. We just were on this lockdown. Boom. So tell me how you guys navigated that so other people will understand that we're going to get challenged. I mean, it may not be COVID again, but it'll be something else. It's guaranteed. So tell people a little bit about, how you guys navigated that.
Yeah. So 5 years ago when COVID hit in March 2020, what a crazy time that was. Just thinking about that, right? Um, so in March 1st, 2020, or the first Monday in March, I started two jobs, actually. I started a job at Qualify as the general counsel and chief compliance officer. That was a fintech company serving about 500,000 Americans a year, giving them loans or leases of several $1,000s if you want to buy a mattress, furniture, auto parts, whatever, and you don't have the money on hand. So all good. And then I also started a job teaching at Georgetown Business School while I was simultaneously teaching my class at George Washington University Law School. So, two
Andrew,
new
you're
jobs.
making me tired. You're making me tired.
Yeah, I mean, that was the last time that I taught two classes at the same time, right? So, so literally, I go down to Richmond, Virginia, where Qualify is located, and I have like 2 good weeks there, and then suddenly we're all staying at home and wearing masks, and there's this crazy, scary virus out there, right? And then one of my friends gets really, really, really sick, and so you need to take it seriously. And there were a lot of challenges for the company. First of all, since we mostly sold through retail stores like mattress salesmen, auto repair stores, etc., those stores all closed down. Unemployment spiked because retail closed down, and suddenly everybody was desperate for cash, and there was a lot of fraud, right? People trying to get money from our lenders, just because they were desperate to get groceries. Totally unprecedented. The company was founded by folks who used to run credit cards at Capital One. They knew what they were doing, but completely unprecedented. And I was totally new to the business. And so did not have the relationships to the political base to say legally we could do this, we couldn't do this. Trying to counsel the business while learning at the same time through a little tiny Microsoft Teams screen, and trying to figure it out. So the leaders of the company made decisions quickly, and there was a lot of former military folks. We decided to actually just shut down underwriting for 2 weeks, just so there's just too much uncertainty in the business. We know our business is to make money through helping folks, but this is just crazy. And our retail stores don't know what's going on, and we don't either. So we will recalibrate, pull back, get some information, and then once we figure out our underwriting, who can responsibly lend or lease to, we'll open it back up. But we just need to play for time, figure out what the situation is, instead of getting ourselves deeper in the hole and making loans or leases with all this fraud going up, with people just desperate to fill out what an application to put food on their table. It was also a big legal crisis too, because suddenly we had to furlough lots of employees, really good people. But, what do we do with our office space, our facilities, right? Suddenly there is this thing called the Paycheck Protection Program, the federal government trying to help businesses. And we were trying to apply for that along with millions of other businesses in America, right? And it's a legal issue. So Andrew, go help with that. And then what do we do with, return to work? And can we make people, how do we just manage this epidemic when people are going to the office and getting sick? So one way to establish credibility as a leader is through a crisis management. I'd prefer that the crisis not occur on week 3 of the job before you really know what's going on. But the crisis was a good opportunity for me to come in and say, everybody recognized something big was going on. Say, look, I don't have all the information. I'm going to be square with you, but these are the factors I see. Let's talk about it. Here's my recommendation. Most of the time, people are like, fuck, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear. This is a tough situation. Quickly move through it and then say, okay, let's do this. We will adjust as needed, right? So we're not committed to one thing. The situation's rapidly evolving, and we'll figure it out. So really tough situation. Stabilized after maybe 6 months with a lot of bumps as we went through various waves of retail closures. Ultimately, the company actually did really well in 2020 and 2021. A lot of money came in from the federal government, right? And people started spending like there's no tomorrow, especially on furniture, because people were at home, right? But it could have been terrible, right? And we went from furloughing people to like hiring like crazy,
Mhm.
right?
Well,
So you're just
so,
gonna
so
have to
tell me
surf the
about that
chaos.
because
Yeah.
you talk about crisis. Like leaders have to be able to handle the crisis that's coming because that's gonna. I mean, there's always gonna be a crisis. There's always gonna be maybe not. We can put a number to the crisis. Is it a 1? Is it a 10? Whatever. But there's gonna be that. That's guaranteed in business. There's gonna be some sort of big challenge that comes. But one of the things you talked about, which I think is really difficult and challenging for a leader, is when you have to lay people off. I mean, this is, you understand that you're in charge of a human life, and that life beyond the human being you're seeing, it could affect, their wives or their spouses or their children, or, I mean, and this, and you have to make these decisions, for the greater good. And this is the hard thing. Like, how do you make a decision for the greater good when you know these individuals, and at that time you probably didn't know them as well? But what goes into that process? Like when you're a
Yeah.
leader, it's not just about numbers. You're dealing with people. I think
It's
that's the biggest
yeah.
challenge.
It is a terrible thing to have to lay people off. Ideally, a company that's well run will never have to go there. My own personal feeling on money is try to make more and spend less, ideally both, right? And so that you have a healthy buffer, so in case something happens. But a lot of high growth companies, they hire a lot, right? And sometimes the promise of the product, whatever it is, works out. Sometimes it doesn't, or you go too fast, or bad things happen in the market, like political things, COVID, those kind of things, right? Um, I have joined companies where they spent more that was supported by revenue. And then you are in the position of saying that instead of having the whole ship down, you need to let other people go, right? It is a terrible thing. I think I honestly am a bit more conservative on money management, trying not to spend more than you make. I understand sometimes you need to invest, especially in early stage of company for the future. But you're right, Sherry, it is the hardest thing to do. Um, so when you're laying people off, not for performance, but just because the company made a mistake or the market shifted, I think the important thing is to be honest, to be human, and to be helpful,
Mm,
right? Like the folks that I've laid off, I'm happy to be a glowing reference for.
sure.
There's two women that I had to lay off a few years ago. One of them, actually, she found a new job in 6 weeks, so she's brilliant. She's great. And she called me right after she accepted her job offer. And I said, congratulations. You didn't even need me as, actually, she listed me as a reference, but they didn't even call me. They loved her. Another person found a job about 2 months later. She now works for the government, and she's very happy where she is. And I remember like 6 months after I laid her off, on Boss Day, which I think is in October, I get an email from her, and it's like a Starbucks gift card for $20. And I'm like, why? You're not, I mean, I laid you off. You have and she's like, still, you were like the best boss I ever had. And I'm like,
Oh,
dude,
wow.
go trip.
Wow. Well,
But,
I think
you
yeah,
got
it's so beautiful though to hear that people understood that you weren't doing it,
still felt
for,
terrible.
for your
But
own profit. Like it wasn't for your profit. It wasn't for you.
yeah,
It was just like it was a very difficult thing to do. It was
yeah,
well thought out why we had to do it. It
yeah.
was let's do it in a personalized, transparent way. And I think the big thing you said there is like let's be helpful. Let's see, can I help you find a job? Can I help you, can I write you a letter? Can I make some calls for you? What can I do to help you move forward? And when we fail to do that, that's when we're just in it for, when we're working and all we're thinking about is our profit, money, productivity. We're not caring about people, and people are the business. I mean, the
Yeah.
minute we forget about that, that's when everything's going to tank. At some level, you're going to tank. It may take a while, it may
Mhm.
take a year, it may take a few years, but it will tank, right? And it's all about your people and doing the right thing at the right time with your people. Yeah, so when you're a leader and you're in those scenarios and you said you still feel guilt, how do you like navigate that? I mean, what do you tell yourself? Because I'm sure there's leaders out there who are going, I have to do this and it's horrible, and then they feel so bad that they put themselves in a negative position. And I just worked working with a client of mine. He had to lay off several people, and he feels bad. He feels like somehow he should have been able to prevent it. It wasn't his fault. The government has changed their policies, right?
Yeah.
They took money
Yeah.
away from certain companies that were nonprofit and whatever. But he
Mm.
still feels like he is responsible for those people somehow, and he's just eating himself up. So how do you navigate those feelings of guilt? Because really, guilt doesn't help anybody. I mean, your guilt's not going to save that person. You can't feel guilty enough to make them better. So how do you navigate that for those people who listen to this and they're thinking, oh my gosh, if I ever have to do that, I would never survive it as a leader because I'd feel personally responsible.
Being a leader is a funny thing. You have to be really empathetic, and you also have to be thick-skinned too, right? The empathy comes from saying, well, to motivate Sherry and to inspire Sherry, Sherry has to believe in me and my team and my organization's mission, right? And then you really have to be able to step into the shoes of your colleague, somebody who's looking up to you, and really live up to that, right? I'm a dad. You shouldn't treat your employees like your kids, but it's that same kind of thing, right? You want to develop them and like do something awesome together, build a family, build an organization together. But you also have to be thick-skinned and say, look, we need to cut expenses, right? Or this business unit just doesn't work anymore. It just can't stand on its own 2 feet. So we have to go another direction. I'm sorry, right? I find that most people are pretty understanding if you're transparent with them and they realize it's not personal. So this is a layoff, not like letting people go for performance. So just pure. And ideally, news like that is not a complete surprise because management has been transparent with them about the financial situation, or they can pick up the newspaper. Do people still read newspapers anymore? I do. And read the current events and see like what's going on, right? And you just want to treat them fairly and decently. But yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. Yeah.
Well, I think the thick skin part
you can't stop the empathy from making the right decision. Right? Sometimes the worst thing you can do is just hold on and hope. And part of the dealing with the guilt is like, well, okay, I feel guilty. I feel bad for Andrew that I had to let him go. So these are the 3 things I'm going to do for Andrew. I'm going to introduce him to my colleague at a similar company. I'm going to say I'm going to be a reference for him, right? Etc. And that, I think, action is the best antidote for guilt and anxiety.
I love that. Taking action, right? Doing something that's positive, really being helpful. But the thick skin part is part of being a leader. You're going to have to make decisions that aren't going to please everybody. In fact, you're never going to please everybody. So get that out of your head because that's never going to happen.
Absolutely.
When I was coaching basketball, every game, every single player had been to practice. They all practiced.
Yeah.
They'd practice hard. They all wanted to play. And I would look down the bench, like ready to substitute somebody. And I get these little like eyes. And they're like, oh, please, like me, please for me.
Oh.
I know, ow. And so I'd have to be able to just, think what's the best for the team right now in this moment to help us win. And it was hard. I mean, I liked them. I was invested in every single one of those players. I wanted them to get playing time. And when I could give them playing time, I'd give them that playing time. But it was for the greater good. And I think that as a leader, you have to have the mission for the greater good. And that doesn't mean you. I mean, it means the greater good of all the people who are working for the company, right? Or for the company so the company survives so that you can bring back people into the company and help more people. Because you said you were able to hire back some of the people, right?
I was.
You were
able
back. Yeah. And so if you wouldn't have made those choices, though, you would have taken the whole company down, and then that would help nobody.
Yeah,
so it's really about that Olympic level mindset. Is I think you said, you have to have empathy, and yet you have to have that thick skin. It's that duality, and so living in that duality is kind of hard.
It is really hard.
You have to still I'm sure that you've had to punish your child at some point or another. Discipline. Sure. I don't say punish. That's a bad word. Discipline your child when you love the child and you want them to succeed. But if you don't teach them the lesson. Yeah, that's where the thick skin comes in, right? So it's the greater good. So if you can think about that in terms of that, the greater good, then maybe that's helpful. But I know a lot of people that, and I think if you don't feel, Andrew, if you don't feel guilt, then there's something wrong with you. If you don't feel like that hurt or whatever. Yeah. So tell me, what are some of the things that you do that help you? I know you're a runner. So what are some of the things that you do that help you, like, just keep that level positive mindset that enables you to come to work and do the things they're in the for the hours of the highest good. And when I mean the highest good, I mean for all the people involved. But how do you keep yourself in that place of being positive, being resilient, being at your best? I know running is something you do. And what else do you do to keep yourself there? Or talk to
Yeah.
us about running and how that helps you.
There's a really good Harvard Business Review article called The Making of a Corporate Athlete. And I read it about 15, 20 years ago, and it stuck with me really hard. It basically says that, look, in the business world, you're like an athlete, right? You have meetings 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You're flying everywhere, sometimes like eating like crap, huge anxiety, etc. And people do that. Like athletic careers can last maybe 5, 10 years if you're lucky, right? But corporate athletes need to go for 30, 40 years sometimes. So, how are you going to take care of yourself so that you can actually sustain that level of performance, right? And when I was younger in my 20s, like I've never pulled a full all-nighter. But yeah, I did have to stay up to like 3 a.m. in the office, sleep for 2 hours on the floor, get up again and do that. And I could eat like junk, eat junk and still be okay. In my 30s, I started to feel that I was starting to slow down, right? I was trying to gain a little bit of weight. I still can wear like my suit that I got when I was 17. I wore it this weekend actually.
Wow,
But
good for you.
yeah, well, running helps. Discipline of eating helps. Um, but I thought to myself that, hey, I can't be my best at work or mentally or emotionally unless I'm taking care of myself physically, right? I remember I was having dinner with a colleague, and she was a few years older. She'd kill me if I said that, but she's a few years older, and she's like, I can't eat that. There's like this huge, luscious chocolate cake for dessert. She says, I can't have that one bite. I'm not going to finish it all. You can have the rest. So, okay, sure, great. That's kind of stuck with me, right? You eat that, and then you're like going to a sugar dump for the rest of the afternoon. So, what do I do now, knowing that the way my body and my energy levels kind of determine my performance for the day? I have a really boring routine. I go to sleep usually around 10:30, no later than 11. I monitor what I eat. For me, I find I need to like, not eat like ideally for a couple hours before bed so I can my body's cool down, etc. Um, Not look at anything too stimulating, no horror movies or whatever, things like that. I don't drink alcohol. I mean, it's fine if people do, but it messes up my sleep
Right.
and it kind of impairs me into the next day, so I don't do that. And I need to be active too. I mean, granted, like running like 12 miles like I did yesterday, it's fun, but like that'll tire you out. So you kind of have to like kind of balance the exercise with, what you have to do at work. But it's so important. And I remember that I've seen bigger executives, literally more senior executives who have like big stomachs, right? And you worry about them. You see them on the road and they're smart, but they have like probably 30 or 40 pounds on you
Right.
and they're the same height. Some of them have had health issues, like heart issues.
Right.
Even some younger colleagues I know, like if they don't fix their habits, it could be hard with a lot of travel, etc. They look older than me,
Yeah.
and they're probably, more than 5, 10 years younger than me, right? You just can't do it. Life is a marathon. It's also a sprint at times, but it's also a marathon. So to be a corporate athlete for the long term, you got to take care of your equipment, right? Gotta like one of the best things of working at home is I can take a 15-minute power nap. Don't tell my boss, but I do that. I block it out because I know I'll be fresh and refreshed and
Right.
focused for the rest of the day. It's a huge investment.
Well, when we were kids, they used to let us have recess.
Yeah, it's so
And,
important.
and it was so important because you could sit and then you go outside, just run, 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 play, 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 blah, blah.
Yeah,
You come
yeah,
back in, sit down, and then you got another break, run, 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 play. And I think that's true for all of us. Like we're
yeah,
better when we give ourselves breaks in the day. We're better when we give ourselves little recesses.
yeah,
I do it all day long.
yeah.
I do
Great.
something
I
for
I love to
45
take
minutes.
walks. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
I go
Yeah,
outside with my dogs. I get on the four
yeah,
wheeler. We do a little thing around the property, and then we come back. And for me, it's about I'm outside. I can see the beauty of the mountains. I can see the beauty surrounding me. I'm grateful. I go into gratitude. I love my dogs. I see how much they love it.
Yep.
So I'm in gratitude again. I'm really happy. I'm really joyous. So I think what you're talking about is we have to learn that self-care is essential. Like it's
Oh yeah.
essential. We can run ourselves into the ground
Yeah.
and then we're not good for anybody. And I think
Yeah.
men are a little bit better than this than women because
Yeah.
women tend to be like, we have to care for everybody. We take care of everybody. Like we got to take care of our spouse. We got to take care of our kids. We got to put everybody in front of us, and it's not about putting people in front of you. It's about
Yeah.
what I talk about a lot is this, is that you can't give what you don't have. And
Yeah.
so if you don't have it, you can't give it. So if you're
Yeah.
tired or you
Yeah.
have to take care of yourself, you can't gift that to somebody else.
Yeah.
If you are struggling with fatigue because you're not eating the right things, you're not getting the
Yeah.
rest you need, then you're not able to give energy. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
this like idea of self-care is so important to us
Yeah.
that when we take care of ourselves, we're able to gift it to other people. So talking about that, when you're talking to you said you teach law,
Mhm.
you've been in leadership development. So what is the
Mhm.
thing that you think that you can teach leaders? What can you teach them that's really, I mean, is it a corporate athlete? Is it something else that you can teach them that's going to help them perform at their best for the longest amount of time?
Yeah. 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 So I think there's two different modes of teaching. There is the kind of teaching where you're working side by side with somebody or teaching them over an extended amount of time in person, right? Versus like the classroom course. For folks like who I work with in my company or who I teach, honestly, the most important thing I can teach about being a leader is just modeling it, modeling the good behavior, and then kind of explicitly describing what I'm doing to them, right?
Mhm.
Because again, it's like kids, it's not do what I say, but it's do what I do. And my kids are like so hardworking and so smart. I don't think it's really because of anything I did. I think it's just because they see like me grind, but they also like are silly, right? Because they like you see dad like going out, running around, you going out with your dogs, etc. So I think really modeling the behavior and but also explicitly explaining why you did it and approached it this way, right? And also giving them an opportunity to voice their thoughts if there's a collective problem, like, hey, it is my decision, but this area of the business because you're hands on this part more than I do, this contract, this customer relationship, whatever it is. So input's great, right? And then, I may override your recommendation. We'll talk about it. We'll consider it. And then seeing how that fits into the bigger picture, also with all the other considerations, is pretty valuable.
Yeah.
In the classroom setting, there's no one magic bullet because the leadership is really situational and people all start their leadership journey in different places, right? With different personalities. Some people are naturally extroverted and they are good. Sometimes they need to be told, like, hey, think before you start talking, right? Other people like me started out kind of introverted and like, with just kind of natural deference for authority. And it's like, you're actually like pretty smart. You should probably take the initiative.
Mhm.
So it can be hard. That's why I think one magic leadership class, I would love to say that you can log in to the Zoom, 1 hour later, you'll be an effective leader, but it really is situational and it really is depending on your personality. So I think leadership coaching like you offer, et cetera, is so valuable
Right.
because you can kind of see where people are and then help them along the way.
Well, it's about self-reflection, right? So I always talk about
Yeah.
that leadership is about that ability to be
Yeah.
self-aware. So the more self-aware that we become, the more that we have that positive transformation. We cannot do positive transformation without understanding who we are and where we are in life.
Yeah.
And for so many people, only 15% of the population is self-aware. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is.
15%. So 85% of the people will never say, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I react that way? Why did that trigger me? They don't do any of that thinking, and yet they want to lead. And I say, look, you have to know.
Manage yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have to be able to manage you first. You have to be able to see yourself first. And so, but the funny thing is, Andrew, I would say that most people think they're self-aware. And you have
Yeah.
85% of the people that are not. And they think they are. And so, I say to them, well, have you ever journaled? Have you had, do you invite feedback all the time from people? Are you one of those people that have done a lot of assessments? Do you continually do assessments? Do you do mindfulness, like, training? Do you do meditation? And so I'd go through like a list of all this stuff and they're like, no, no, no. And I said, well, chances are that
Hmm.
you're probably not as self-aware as you think you are.
Hmm.
And for me, for great leaders, it's about this ability to, you have to know everything. You go through college, you need that information, you need the experience, you need the information. But the way to change the fastest is to understand who you are and how you're showing up for other people. You talked about being that leader by example. And so, but you have to know, are you, the difference between I'm saying this and I'm doing it, like you have to have that difference. You have to know that difference, and you have to be able to say to yourself, how do I need to change to make this even better? So tell me, like, what kind of things have you done, Andrew, in terms of helping yourself create more awareness, more personal awareness? I mean, are you into reading books? Do you do podcasts? You said you read the paper, but what do you do to help yourself in that area of self-awareness so that you can show up even better for your A,
Yeah.
family, and B, for your teams and your companies?
Yeah, no, thank you. You're absolutely right that any personal development starts with brutal honesty, like brutal about where you are. And I am definitely my own harshest critic. I love myself. I have good self-esteem, but also like really tough on myself, right? And a lot of good leaders I know are far tougher on themselves than other people are, right? But that's what drives us to be great. Not necessarily the most healthy relationship. You also have to celebrate your successes and not see the next gold medal, like just because there's always another rung on the ladder or gold medal or whatever, right? Um, so what I do is when I was at Harvard College, I was kind of like a middle class family, really grateful for a scholarship, but I had to work. So I worked 15 hours a week at Harvard Business School on the IT help desk. And the business school students, most of them were nice. Some of them were really mean. And they would say, like, like, hey, who is this like younger student trying to help fix my computer? I just treat him like crap because like I am like, I'm the boss, my computer, it's just, So one thing came with that is I always resolve to treat everybody nicely. Customer service, the person at McDonald's, whatever, treat them with respect, right?
Right.
So I was in a lot of situations where somebody was watching me, trying to figure out what's wrong with their computer. They're already blaming me for whatever's wrong with their computer. I'm trying to figure it out. And they were goading me sometimes, like, you are like stupid. Like, how can't you figure this out? So I learned to actually reflexively step outside and watch myself, right? So I'm not my feelings. I'm not my emotions. I'm like the weather in the sky, right?
Right.
I'm the sky. Sometimes it's stormy, etc. But I'm the sky. It'll pass. It'll blow through. I'm aware of it. I'm aware my heart's kind of like clenching a little bit, but I'm going to like not be affected by it. So I
Love.
find that one thing I do when I'm in a high pressure situation, maybe it's something that your athletes do, is I like just kind of disassociate myself. I just reflexively watch myself and I say, look, if I'm Andrew doing this situation, what should I do? It's like a choose your own adventure book. If people still read those, like the newspaper, right? Do you get angry and raise your voice, or do you keep doing your job, right? There's obviously the real, the right answer, but sometimes just framing it like that. Say, yeah, obviously you know what you need to do, right? You can make the snarky comment later to your colleague afterwards. Still, but at this moment, just keep it professional, right? So it's interesting. I kind of reflexively go into that mode when I'm pushed.
Hmm.
And it's been really helpful in terms of self-awareness that it's like the boiling point, right? You get there and it's like, okay, I need to step aside. I just need to deal with this. I can process it later, but I can step aside, right? But you're right, self-awareness is the key. And then you can be aware that, yeah, that felt like crap. And then you have to think a little bit, right? Like, why did that feel like crap? Is this really the right job for me? Is it really just bad luck? Or did I show up the right way, right? Could I have built credibility in the first 30 seconds? So this guy didn't think I was like an idiot, right? And treated me like an idiot, stuff like that. Maybe I should just call my manager to deal with this guy because he was just a terrible person. You can't keep saying that about everybody, right? And also just having a bit of a sense of humor, right? We just take ourselves so goddamn seriously all the time. and just being a little silly and just saying, "Oh, that sucked." Roll your face.
Well,
And then
being
you
an
say,
observer,
okay, well,
right?
tomorrow's
I
another
love
day.
it.
Just, not everything is a win, right? Some days you're just not feeling it, right? And it's okay to turn back on mile 5 when you plan to go for your 10-mile long run. And you're like, you know what? I'm just not feeling it today.
Right?
Like it's like way too hot and humid in DC. I can't do it. And you just go home. Yeah.
Well, I love the idea of being the observer, like stepping outside yourself
Hmm.
and watching,
Hmm.
and just with curiosity and not judgment, so that
Hmm.
you have that way forward afterwards. So instead of beating yourself up, you can just watch and listen and go, well, that's interesting. Like, why would I say that? Why would I do that? And really having that kind of interest versus judging yourself. Like if you can just get to that non-judgment phase, I think you're going to respond differently. I had this interesting thing that just happened. So my mother is 86, and so she's a little bit older. Her mind's not quite working the same level, but she's always been a very reactive person. I had to learn not to be reactive. And she left this very mean voicemail on my, and I was like, what is this about? I don't even know what this is about. And so I texted my sister. I said, "What? Do you know anything about like what's going on with mom?" She's like, "No." And so I called her. I'm like, "Hey, mom, how you doing?" And she was silent for a long time. I go, "Well, I had a really great time. It's great, blah blah blah." And she goes, "Well, why did you do that?" And I go, "Mom, I don't know. Do what? Help me understand what happened here." "Well, you left a voicemail." I said, "I did." She said, "You said, well, you've made your choices," and you hung up. And I said, "Well, let's look at this a second." I said, "When's the last time that I said something like that to you? Like I didn't say, 'Hey, mom,' or I lead into it and I just said those words." I said, "My guess is, mom, that I had butt dialed you and you was in on part of a conversation, like it, on something else from somebody else." And and I was like, okay, but if I reacted, right, then I
Mm.
was going to just create this explosion. And so I was
Mm.
able to separate and go, I'm so sorry that first of all, I was like, I'm so sorry you had to go through that you thought that I would do that. Like, I'm really sorry that you spent a few days in this mode because I was out in the wilderness. I had no internet. I'm really sorry that you felt that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's kind of examine this. Like for the last 30 years that you've
Hmm.
known me, have I done anything like that? She goes, "Well, no."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, then it's probably not true. So just for you to understand, like, I've done a lot. Like, mom, I do communication. Like, this is one of the things I teach people. I teach people communication. I've been through tons of therapy. I've written books on it. Like, this is probably not me, right?"
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
didn't tell her she should have called me about it or what she should have done. I just said, "I'm so sorry you had to go through that." But that's the observer, right? That's
Hmm.
when you're able to step into something. You don't make judgment against the other person. You're curious. You're able to have a conversation versus just jumping in with the reaction. So, last question. I think that, we're talking right now, it's about wisdom. So, wisdom is knowledge versus experience, right? You can get knowledge from all the courses you take in college, maybe from books you read. You have to have that experience, and you have to blend the two, knowledge plus experience, to really get your outcome. So how do you teach people to get that into that wisdom mode, to live in the wisdom area, right? So take the experience like you've had, take the knowledge, just blend those together. Because I think that's the difference maker to me. One of the biggest difference makers is the people who understand how to live in wisdom.
Yeah. You're right. Wisdom is knowledge and experience. I would say also it's knowledge plus reflected experience. It goes
Um,
back to the self-awareness that you talk about. Because people can study books and they can have things happen to them. That's experience. But if they don't reflect on it, they don't internalize their mistakes, what they could do better. Like, hey, is this path really the right thing to do? Or should I try something else? Or am I just giving up? Like, what is it? Then it doesn't really do much for them, right? Just the knowledge plus experience. So you have to reflect on. So maybe it's knowledge plus experience plus reflection. But yeah. Um, so my law school class is pretty boring, I have to say. I have this huge book. Um, it's on my bookcase here. Uh, so this book here is like 1,000 pages, and it's terrible to read.
oh my gosh.
I mean, it's so abstract, and nobody's going to look at it again after they graduate. But what I pride myself on teaching is not all of the tax law that's going to change every 4 years when whatever government administration comes into power. But it really is like, hey, for these third year law students who have spent a ton of money in 3 years of their life trying to become a lawyer, and a lot of them, like me, like don't know what being a lawyer is because they've never worked full time as a lawyer, right? So how can I teach them the knowledge plus experience? Well, a couple of things. First of all, I bring in usually about six or so guest speakers each semester to talk about what they wish they would have known when they were third year law students at the beginning
Right.
of their career and what they learned each step of their way and how they made the choices for how they shape things. And some things will resonate and some things won't. And sometimes it's really valuable the things that the students will say, you know what? Litigation, arguing in court sounds scary to me. Like some people feel exciting. I don't like that. Figuring out what you don't like is actually tremendously valuable, right? And then for me, I actually end a lot of my classes with a words of wisdom slide or two, and I tell a story or two from my experience, usually a pretty embarrassing or difficult story or a difficult situation. And so on the one hand, they respect me after a while, right? But I'm being vulnerable to them and talking about how I struggled earlier in my career with, you know, sexual harassment or being let go from Singapore until when I had to go home, like, literally by like a partner in the men's bathroom who looked over and said, "Oh, you're still here? We're done with you. You can fly back to the US now." All these different situations on tough situations, how I dealt with them, how I learned from them, how I absorbed the hard lessons from them. And I think, people learn through stories. People, especially through stories of people that they've met and they connect and they respect. So, I hope that people will learn through my stories because they're not going to remember all the cases in this book here. But I do think they will remember my stories.
Right. I love that. I love that. I love the whole part about reflection around the experience, understanding how to move through the experience. Without that reflection, I think that we struggle as human beings, and that's the critical thinking part is learning to critically think. And it doesn't mean that I have to beat myself up because I didn't say the right words or I had to lay off people or whatever it is. It's just about learning. How can I turn this into learning? How can I turn this into something that's going to be better for me? Well, Andrew, this has been amazing. I think that you have so much great insight to share with people who want to be leaders, who want to be the Olympic level leader, who understand it's way beyond just, get up the ladder as far as you can, as fast as you can. It's about people and it's about yourself. It's about awareness of self. It's about self-care. It's about understanding. It's about continuing the knowledge, continue to ask questions. There's so much that goes into it. Do you have any final thing that you would like to say to the people here? Something that maybe in passing or a story you want to share with them or something that will help them move forward in their lives?
Yeah. I think one of the most exciting things about being a leader and a human being is
Mhm.
learning and curiosity, right? Life is never boring if you keep learning and keeping opening your mind to like reading your book, Sherry, or listening to a podcast or reading a newspaper or a YouTube video or TikTok. I don't do TikTok or whatever people do these days, right? Or talking to folks who are just recent graduates. Everybody has something to learn, a different perspective. And then learning how to mediate that and, God forbid, become a leader through a world that's being transformed through AI and different generations of work, different businesses, like international stuff, is really compelling. And it's a great opportunity. So I think that humble curiosity going to the external world, but also towards yourself and
Right.
saying, you know what, I feel something now that I didn't do before. Maybe this is an interesting trend, that this is more important to me now, and pulling those threads, right? I think that's part of the lifelong journey of leadership,
Mhm.
both externally, but also learning how to lead yourself.
For sure. This has been amazing. So everybody who's out there, please take the time to share this video, to share with people who are really interested in about becoming the Olympic level, having the Olympic level mindset, and moving from success to significance. And so you really understand what does that mean? What does that feel like? How is it different? And I appreciate all those who are listening today. You guys have a winning day. Bye now.